Hey everybody, it's me, Allison Gill. Welcome to The Breakdown, and thanks to my good friends at Midas Touch for partnering with MSW Media and giving me this platform. Now, we all know that Donald Trump sex trafficked girls to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell through his Mar-a-Lago spa. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. So it stands to reason that Trump also probably trafficked girls to Epstein and Maxwell through his modeling agency and his connections to other CEOs of other modeling agencies. And a few days ago, in the newly released batch of Epstein files, which we're told is the final batch, even though it's missing 3 million documents, in that release, we saw a summary of a report to the FBI tip line from someone who knew a girl trafficked through a Trump modeling agency. Someone who herself was also recruited by that friend or attempted to be recruited by that friend. And we became hyper aware of these tip line summaries, these FBI tip line summaries, after the Department of Justice pulled them down from their repository, but not before thousands of document watchers screen capped them, saved them, and circulated them online. Now, oddly, maybe one of the reasons they pulled these down before they put them back up is that none of the corresponding FBI 302s for interviews that undoubtedly resulted from these tips to the tip line, none of those, at least that I've been able to find, were released. Nor will they be. Like I said, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has said, this is it. This is all there is. This is all we're releasing. We're holding back stuff pursuant to an open investigation, an active investigation. We'll talk about that in a minute. Well, I have spoken to the person who called in that tip about the Trump modeling agency, and I will tell you what she had to say on today's episode of The Breakdown. Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Allison Gill, host of the Daily Beans podcast, CEO over at MSW Media. And by now, knowing how plugged in all of you are who watch the Midas Touch Network, you've likely seen these images circulating on social media. Image after image after image. This is a report consisting of summaries of tips about Epstein and Maxwell received by the FBI from the public. Now, these images went viral, as I said, because the Department of Justice removed them from the portal after they'd been released. And document watchers noticed immediately and shared the images they screen capped and moved to a hard drive, probably. And likely, again, because this administration has been known in the past to pull down sensitive Epstein documents, especially ones concerning Donald Trump, who appeared in this dump at least 5,000 times. They've done this. They've removed documents from the portal before once they realized that they had gone up, maybe in error. Now, as I said, these documents were restored to the portal, but not after images of them made their way around the internet on Twitter and Blue Sky, Reddit, Facebook, Threads, Insta, TikTok. They're everywhere. And one of them stood out to me. So let me take you back for a minute to July of last year, 2025. Around the time I announced that I was filing a Freedom of Information Act request for Epstein redaction training videos after some exclusive reporting from a source inside the FBI who told me about the existence of these training videos. Now, an anonymous woman reached out to me around that time because she had very specific information about a report she made to the FBI about a friend and her connection to a Trump modeling agency trafficking victims to Epstein and Maxwell, an allegation. Now, she thought that if I had details about what was in her report, what was in her interview with the FBI, I could make a very specific or refined Freedom of Information Act request. I could ask for the report, right? She says, ask for this specific report. Ask for the report with these details. Here's the date that I made the report. And she said to me, and you can see the date here, July 17th, 2025, quote, "Hey, AG, I know Trump is in the FBI files on Epstein because I called and reported. When Epstein first went to jail and the FBI asked for tips, I called. My best friend had been trying to become a Trump model. She would go to New York City and manage to get a photo shoot with a Trump photographer. She said most of the girls were foreign and some barely spoke English, so she felt lucky to get picked as one of the rare Americans there. She was blonde-haired, blue-eyed, buxom, and gorgeous. They told her she was Trump's type. They connected her to a man and a woman who they said could help move her career along faster. That they were all connected. She was invited to boat parties with friends of Trump and the photographer. She was supposed to entertain the wealthy men on board who promised her things. She was also supposed to bring back other hot girls, especially blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls like her. I didn't have blonde hair, but she invited me. I didn't think I could disappear for a weekend like she did, so I never went. But I heard her stories of being offered drugs and performing sex acts. Now, she went on to tell me, quote, Donald was part of it. I hope he gets everything he deserves for what I saw happen to my best friend. We were 14 when she first went to one of his casting parties. I moved before we turned 16. Her life was ruined because of him, and I've been trying to warn people since The Apprentice was airing. I wish him pain and the awareness that he will lose everything and anything associated with him will be destroyed other than the stain in the history books to warn that evil can be wealthy and shiny to those who wish to be deceived. I was not okay watching what was happening when Epstein was first jailed. I am not okay now. I am enraged. I hope justice is just as painful for him as it was for each and every one of his victims. Now, I thanked her for this information, and I said that if my FOIA lawsuit got to a point where I would need specific details for specific documents, I would let her know. Maybe we could get an affidavit or a declaration. So back to those highlighted reports, those viral highlighted reports that traveled around the internet after they were pulled down and then put back up this weekend. There it was. This woman's report. Look, quote, complainant reported her neighbor sought modeling gigs at the Trump modeling agency in New York City between the years of 1998 and 2000. Complainant reported neighbor allegedly went on cruises set up by recruiter or head of the agency and once showed complainant a photo of the recruiter, whom complainant recalled looking like Epstein. Complainant reported neighbor was allegedly raped several times during this time period. Now, if you're wondering why some of these tip line summaries are highlighted and why some of them aren't, like this one, that is revealed in an email attached to this report of tip line summaries that says, quote, see below, yellow highlighting is for the salacious piece of this report. So that's why some of it's highlighted. Now that's this woman's report based on the details she provided to the FBI in 2020 and to me again in 2025. The problem is that the actual FBI interview, the formal interview conducted by the FBI agents with this woman, is not anywhere to be found in the files which are, according to Todd Blanche, now released in their entirety, at least the entirety that they plan on showing us. The tip line summary is just the tip line summary. The actual 302 is missing. So I set about the task of verifying that there was an actual formal FBI interview, and here's how I confirmed that there was. First, I have corroboration from a third person that was present during the formal phone interview. But let me give you the short timeline of events from 2020 when this was called in. First, there was a press conference held on July 2nd, 2020, after the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell, during which they asked for tips from anyone with information. Anybody in the public, if you have a tip, call us. Watch this.
For the many victims of other adult perpetrators who may be listening or get word of today's announcement, the example set by the women involved in this investigation has been a powerful one. They persevered against the rich and the connected, and they did so without a badge, a gun, or a subpoena, and they stood together. I have no doubt the bravery exhibited by the women in this investigation has empowered others to speak up about the crimes that they have been subjected to. If you are listening today and are the victim of child sex trafficking, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or contact us online at tips.fbi.gov.
So that was the press conference July 2nd. Now, according to my source, she made a call to the FBI tip line with that information that we see in the summary released this week. She made the call the same day, July 2nd. And then here is a screenshot of the voicemail that she received from the FBI 10 days later. As you can see, it's dated July 12th, and it says, "Good afternoon, blank." I'm redacting her name. "My name is Special Agent Burke with the New York FBI, and I was calling to follow up on the tip you provided yesterday. If you could give me a call back. My number is blank. Thank you." Now, I have reached out to the phone number provided by the FBI Special Agent Burke. I reached out for comment, and I haven't received a response. So I definitely have enough to confirm that this report is the one made to the FBI back in 2020 by this person. Now, I've been able to confirm she sat down for a formal interview with the FBI after receiving this voicemail. But again, the report of that interview is nowhere to be found in this release, much like the rest of Maria Farmer's reports to the FBI from 1996. The report, which was released in the previous set of files. The reports she made about Trump are missing. They only released the one about Epstein. So I have for you a summary of the details this person provided to the FBI in 2020, the one that we don't have the 302 for. Summarized here in that document I showed you, but not released in its entirety. And again, I bet we can all guess why. Because it implicates Trump's modeling agency in the sex trafficking ring. Obviously, these are just allegations, but here's what she told the FBI. We lived in Connecticut at the time. Most of this would have been around 1998 to 2000. She went to New York City for parties and clubbing, underage with a fake ID. Then she told me she was recruited by a modeling agent who worked with a couple agencies and thought she would be a good fit for Trump's. She went to a few photo shoots, and it was frequently borderline scandalous. Then got recruited for events and parties. I think, she said, it started through the Trump agency photographer. But there was another man and woman involved in the stories, telling her that they would help her career. The parties were often talked about as modeling gigs. She said most of the models were foreign. Some hardly spoke English. She felt lucky to be picked. Then they asked her to go to parties and bring good-looking girls the same age. That she could make money from modeling, waitressing, massages, and entertaining. She asked me to go several times, then was told they only wanted blondes for Trump parties, but any hair was fine for other parties. There were a few parties that really stuck in my head. She said they were assigned rooms with themes, or were told to float around the rooms. The rooms were themed with sex acts and or drugs. Since I was a virgin at that point, she thought she could get me into a room with whatever level of activity I was comfortable with, but probably extra money if I was willing to let one of the men be my first. There were several trips on a big boat or yacht. After one weekend trip, she said she met a guy who would help her career. I thought modeling was the point, but she also talked about acting, singing, and massage. It sounded kind of like a boyfriend or a sugar daddy situation. He said he had connections. He was older, but she thought he was handsome, especially compared to many of the other men there. She showed me a picture of him on the rail of the boat. Later, I saw the same pic in the papers when he was first indicted. I'm pretty sure it was Jeffrey Epstein. Something happened at one of the events that scared her, and she stopped telling me as much. She started dyeing her hair different colors, talking about how he liked blondes. I think she was beaten at least twice. She had bruises. She said they threatened her family with prison or death if she didn't cooperate or if she told anybody, especially police. And she believed some law enforcement at all levels were involved. She didn't say what happened, but said something made her believe them. We talked about getting emancipated and moving in together when we turned 16 and getting jobs. She said they had promised massage training and she could make money off of that, and thought she could get that and get out. But as things fell apart, she moved to other ideas. She then moved to the south end of town for the 8th grade freshman year of high school. I moved out of state near the end of my freshman year. I couldn't reach her for over a year, and when I did, she told me she had been drugged and dumped as dead in front of a hospital. She had been in a rehab center. She said she couldn't tell me anything more and keep me safe on the phone. After that, I barely spoke to her and just checked in every few years. She has a kid and a good guy now. She has erased her life before about 5 to 10 years ago from social media, but she survived. Trump's modeling agency was importing models that were used for these parties, many without their families and barely speaking English. My friend was fascinated by them and the risk they were taking. They too were trafficked into this ring. My friend was a rare American, and they told her that frequently. All those other girls didn't have anyone to bear witness as far as I know. But Trump was importing and sex trafficking girls to Epstein and others. There is no way he didn't know, since he was at parties and inspected the girls. His modeling connections need to be investigated. So that's a summary of what she told the FBI in the formal interview, but we don't see it anywhere in a 302 in the files that have been released. If they've released all the files they're going to release, where is this 302? Like I said, maybe it's with the rest of Maria Farmer's 302s. Maria's sister had the same question, Annie, when I interviewed her here on the Midas Network a couple weeks ago. You can now find that interview at MuellerSheWrote.com. Perhaps they're amidst the nearly 3 million pages that the DOJ is unlawfully withholding in this release. 2 months ago, when the Epstein Files Transparency Act passed, I said, quote, DOJ will refuse to release the Epstein files based on their sham ongoing investigation. Bookmark it. Well, sure enough, after withholding almost half of the files that we know about, Todd Blanche said, quote, any Epstein document that would jeopardize an active federal investigation is not being released by DOJ. Then why did you put out a statement last July saying you've closed all investigations related to the Epstein files and that there was no client list? And if, in fact, you're investigating the Clintons, why withhold this 302 about Trump's modeling agencies? I mean, I have confirmed proof that this woman sat for an FBI interview. There's a 302 for this somewhere, and the DOJ is refusing to release it. So I just want to thank everyone who's come forward to share information with me in the face of retribution from this administration and very rich and powerful people. We still have a lot of work to do, whether it's beating back and defunding ICE or flipping Congress so we can get some accountability, or preparing for whatever election stealing scheme Trump is planning after going down and stealing vote tabulator tapes from Fulton County, Georgia. Or just doing everything we can to help get justice for Epstein and Maxwell survivors. Thank you for being part of the fight. I'm Allison Gill, and we'll see you next week on The Breakdown.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the Midas Touch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.